The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This episode of the Steve Austin Show is sponsored in part by DDP Yoga. Working on hundreds of matches over years, it ain't no surprise that my body's taking its share of bumps and bruises. Hell, get beat up for a living. Well, my buddy Diamond Dallas Page knows all about the wear and tear the ring takes on your body because he's been down the same road I have. And his DDP Yoga fitness system was specifically designed to burn fat, reduce pain, and heal from injuries. Dallas is so positive that you'll absolutely love the DDPY program, and using the DDPY app, he's doing something he ain't never done before. He's going to give you 7 days free to try it out. That is a week to try the program, explore the app, and own your life, and it's completely free. DDP Yoga can work for all ages, weights, and fitness levels. It's a kick-ass cardio workout that will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before, all with minimal joint impact. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, you can save 20% off an annual membership for the DDP Yoga Now app of any DVD pack. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to get started. And check us out. DDP is headed back to the UK and is putting on another DDPY Inspiration Meets Perspiration workshop for one night only. Thursday, April 19th at Frome Sport and Fitness in Somerset, England. Come on over to this incredible 3-hour workshop where you'll get to meet DDP, get a kick-ass workout, and hear DDP's secrets to staying motivated. Get your workshop tickets at ddpyogaworkshops.com. Can't make the workshop? Don't worry. You can still catch DDP in person at the Wells Comic-Con April 21st and April 22nd. Details and tickets are at wellscomiccon.com.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I am sitting here at 317 Gimmie Street, about to open up a can of audio whoop-ass for you to enjoy. My guest today on the podcast is none other than the one and only Dr. D. David Schultz. Got a chance to talk to David for an extended length of time. Podcast is going to last for about an hour and a half. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Dr. D. David Schultz has written a book. It's called Don't Call Me Fake. It's a real story of Dr. D. David Schultz, also written by John Cosper, and it's got a foreword in it by one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Bret the Hitman Hart. We just got a chance to do a podcast a couple of weeks ago with Edge and Christian on their podcast, and we broke down our famous WrestleMania 13 match. And, man, it was good to talk to Bret and good to talk about that match and good to talk to Edge and Christian. I'll tell you what, out of all the shows and all the podcasts I've done, I think that one was certainly among the most feedback that I've gotten back on social media, on my Twitter account, Steve Austin BSR. And it's just good to hear Bret's in a good place and he's still feeling good and he's doing great. Edge and Christian were awesome. And anyway, he wrote the foreword to the book. And it's interesting because when Dr. D. David Schultz was passing through Calgary and Bret was coming up in the ranks, Dr. D. had some advice for Bret regarding his work and his promo. And you'll hear that in the podcast today. But like he told him, he goes, hey, man, you know, as far as work, I really can't tell you anything. You're one of the best workers here. You're the best worker here. But with your promos, that's what you need to work on. You need to work on your promo. And he was straight up and honest with Bret. And they had some great matches together. Bret enjoyed working with Dr. D. Really helped him out. And then there's a story in the podcast where he helped him out down the road in a locker room situation one time. And so it was really interesting to see the forward and all the paths cross. And when I read the book, it took me a while to read it. It's a good book with a lot of pictures I think you enjoy. But, man, there's so much history in there, so many names that just brought back memories. And, you know, and the thing is, Dr. D was about a generation ahead of me in the wrestling business. And wrestling was very regional back then. And I didn't see really any of his work in the WWF. I didn't see it in AWA or Calgary or anywhere like that. I saw his work later when I was searching for it on YouTube. But a lot of similarities between Dr. D and the Stone Cold Steve Austin character for sure. And I think if Dr. D would have been around in the Attitude Era, he would have drawn a lot of money with me. He would have drawn a lot of money with anybody. But anyway, just so many names and that people that he's talking about in this book that I got a chance to know or had looked up to. So I really enjoyed the two parts of the Dr. D. David Schultz book. And the two parts is, there's many parts. But David, grew up in Kentucky. They didn't have a whole lot of money. And he goes over in the Army. He learns how to weld. And, finally he ends up in the wrestling business. And then he gets out of the wrestling business, and he starts bounty hunting. And you'll hear why and how he got out of the business. I think you know. It's a question I used to ask everybody when I started the podcast. The infamous segment with John Stossel backstage at Madison Square Garden. And after that incident happened, David went over to Japan, took some independent bookings, and then, after about a year and a half, give or take 2 years, everything just kind of slowed down, and that's when he went into bounty hunting. So I enjoyed reading the book a whole lot, and it was interesting talking to David. And the thing about Dr. D is I think he was so serious, in the ring, around the business, in character, cutting promos, that, I think people think that's who and what he was. And Dr. D is definitely a very bright individual, extremely hard worker, real savvy, a guy who really knows how to read people. So I enjoyed reading this book. And, the fact that he got out of business of pro wrestling because it all dried up for him and then got into bounty hunting and did that for damn near 20 years. Real interesting story. So the kind of two major parts of the book, he talks about the business, and then really right when he was coming up into his prime, going into, WrestleMania 1, that's when it shut down. And so then he starts telling bounty hunter stories, and it was just interesting to hear his line of work on that, his perspective of, doing business with skips and bail bondsmen and stuff like that. So I had a great time reading this book. And Dr. D is a guy that I really enjoyed watching his work on YouTube and watching his promos. And, man, that guy can talk a blue streak a mile a minute. And my conversation with him today was a little bit difficult because I was on Skype and he was on a cell phone down there in Tennessee. But I enjoyed it. I think the reception was pretty damn good. And I highly recommend, if you're a wrestling fan and you also want to hear some bounty hunter stories, the book is called Don't Call Me Fake, The Real Story of Dr. D. David Schultz, co-written by John Cosper. It's a foreword by Bret Hart, and I enjoyed reading it. And you can find it on Amazon.com right now, and you can also find the book at EatSleepWrestle.com. So if you're interested in reading this book, I recommend it. I enjoyed the living hell out of it, and it was a pleasure talking to David Schultz. But anyway, before we get to Dr. D. David Schultz, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt uncomfortable on a job site? Like if you're a pro wrestler, you're in the ring waiting for a beer so you can raise some hell and they toss you a root beer instead. Or if you're down on the mat looking up at the lights and the referee says 1, 2, 3, that's awkward, right? If this kind of stuff happens on a job site, work can be flat out uncomfortable. So at least get work gear that's comfortable. Timberland Pro makes shirts, pants, and boots for all kinds of jobs and all kinds of weather, so you can do your best work day in and day out. Head to toe, Timberland Pro. Not uncomfortable.
Hey everyone, I'm Wade Keller, and it's WrestleMania season. So be sure to subscribe to the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast here at PodcastOne. I produce 2 new shows each week. Every Thursday on our flagship show, I'm joined by a co-host from the wrestling journalism field to talk about the hot topics in WWE and elsewhere. Every Friday, I'm joined by a guest who has worked in the wrestling business, including ex-WWE creative team members like Kevin Eck, talking about Drew McIntyre.
Drew was a young guy, and did it go to his head, and did he walk around like he was the chosen one? He did. And I was frank with him. And I said, Drew, just so you know, this is how they view you.
And PodcastOne's own Christian Harloff, talking about his days working for WWE and Vince McMahon specifically.
As far as the perception of him, I mean, he's the king. He walks in and it's just, you can feel it. I mean, if the force was real, you would feel the force powering into the room when he enters.
And pro wrestlers, including NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis, also known as Magnus, talking about the challenges facing Ronda Rousey as she transitions from MMA to WWE.
I'm sure if you asked Ronda, she'd probably say that this moment is the result of hundreds of people's work, meticulous preparation and planning and timing and everything, and now suddenly it's like, go! And that can be very overwhelming.
Just search Wade Keller on Apple Podcasts or on the PodcastOne app or anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Yeah, man, I'm sitting here in Los Angeles, California. I just got finished doing my honeydew list. That means cleaning up a dog shit in the yard. David, Here's the thing. You got a compound in Tennessee, and I know you're no stranger to a honeydew list. I just got finished picking up the dog shit in the front yard and the backyard, and my front yard's about 20 yards wide, and it's about 10 yards long, and my backyard is even smaller. So anyway, I've been out here doing my honeydew list, and now that I know that you're a little bit, kind of retired, you're still working, but you're no stranger to the same list.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a honeydew list no more. I got a honeydew book with chapters in it. The list was good. Now I got a book because she come through here a while ago and said, I guess you ain't going to go down there and move them pine trees from in them other trees. Hell no, I ain't moving them. You move them you want to move. Now, I probably won't get to eat tonight because of that. I got to sugarcoat it later. I was like, hell, I'm sorry. I thought you was talking to the dog or something, and I'm building her a building out here with a deck and all that, just away from my building so she can get all of her stuff out of here, her growing stuff, And she comes out there this morning, she just shakes her head and goes, I said, now what the hell's wrong? She said, I ain't going to say nothing. I'm just letting it go. She looks at stuff before it gets done. When, it's different when you finish. As you're working building the deck, you got to level everything from the bottom up. And when you start, it may be off 2 or 3 inches getting started until you get it all nailed up and get it going, And then, boy, she comes out here, what the hell? That's going to look like shit.
Hey,
but
Dave.
I guess she said, that's beautiful. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just got finished. I told you, I said I'm going to call you at 10 o'clock in the morning on my time, which is 12 o'clock your time because you're over there in Tennessee. And I was 3 minutes late. And I ain't never late for nothing. I was never late to no bookings because I was the first guy in the building. I was the last guy to leave. So the reason I was late was because I called one of my greatest rivals in the squared circle, Bret the Hitman Hart. And I wanted to get a little backstory on him because I knew he wrote the foreword to your book, and I have your book in my hand. It's called Don't Call Me Fake, The Real Story of Dr. D. David Schultz. So we're going to get into the book, and we won't talk all about the book because I want people to have a reason to buy it. I read it from cover to cover. It took me a while to read it because I'm such a slow-ass reader, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. And I know there's so many stories that we can talk about, and you and me can just shoot the breeze anyway. But one of the big questions, and I asked you this on the telephone the other day, being in the wrestling business, and Jesus, you was in the Army, and then you was in Poland for 3 years. You was a truck driver, and your wife, Peggy, and you have been together, over 40 years now?
Yeah, 48 years. This June will be 48 years. Yep.
How in the hell did you do it?
Well, I stayed away. I was gone all the time. Now that I'm home, it's harder than it ever been. I got to hide out in the woods and stuff like that. She comes, if I'm gone over an hour, her and the dog, she turns the dog loose and goes and finds me. I got 3 or 4 pit bulls and 3 or 4 other ones, but I got one that's a good tracker. She just let him go. He'll track me down. I do it kind of to train him a little bit, but he just comes out there and he'll stand and look at me. What are you doing out here? Maybe one. He talks to me too. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but it's great, man. When you're out here and nobody's around, you can do what you want to do, But 48 years, and if she hadn't been with me 48 years, I'd probably be in jail or dead or something. I mean, she has saved a lot of people's lives in my time. Without her, I don't want her to suffer, and my grandkids and daughter and all that suffer. And, for something that I would do, I just kind of lay back now and take it easy. That's I try to until I get to talking, then I bury myself. People say, you're still talking about that, ain't you?
God dang, David, when I was watching your stuff in the ring, and of course, you were about a generation ahead of me, and so YouTube wasn't around way back in the day, and I grew up in South Texas, and, right before WrestleMania 1, when you was in New York, and I know you'd been through many different territories. But, when I watched and looked back at some of your promos, cutting with Mean Gene Oakland for those town-specific interviews, trying to promote ticket sales and stuff like that, and sometimes you'd talk so much trash that Gene couldn't even, you'd pop him, and you just talk so much trash. But I really figured in some of my conversations on the phone with you, our characters, a few years apart were in many ways very similar. And just in my conversations with you on the phone, I was wondering where you came up with the persona, because to me, it seems real. And it just seems like David Schultz has gone from being turned up from a 2 to about 11 or 12. Would I be correct in kind of making that assessment?
Well, yeah, that's, when I was growing up, I was poor. I was very poor, still poor, but I was real poor then, dirt poor. And anything I wanted, I had to fight for it. If I had something somebody wanted, they try to take it away. I had to fight to keep it. If I lost the fight, I lost it. So I learned a long time ago that a lot of times you could talk your way or bluff people. If they thought you meant what you said you were going to do, like you growing up, a guy, hey, I'm going to take your newspapers, okay? You take them, but you won't take them no more. The next day, I hit him in the head with a brick bat. He didn't bother me no more. Didn't take my newspapers no more. But I always, I love to talk with people, and I always tried to back up what I said. That is my trouble. I tell people, hey, if you say that one more time, I'm going to knock the hell out of you. And they say it one more time, knock the hell out of them. And, I got a reputation even before I started wrestling that, hey, if he tells you something, I got to watch it. He'll knock the hell out of you. But that's the way I was raised. I had 3 brothers, and all of them was tougher than I was, but they was pretty well fighters, too.
Hey, how did you meet Peggy? Because I know you guys were high school sweethearts. How did that come about?
I met her at a football game one time. We was in junior high school, and I met her at a football game. And from then on, I had to run her around and track her down, try to keep up with her. And she kept being hard to get, And then when I went in the Army and everything, I stayed in touch with her and all this. And I got out. As soon as I got out, we got married. And the rest of it was history. We went everywhere, done everything. And she's been great. This girl would not, even all the wrestlers would tell you, she will not open her mouth about anything that's said or done around her. Because I told her a long time ago, the wrestling business, you'll see a lot of things. It's none of your business, because you don't know what the guys, what kind of situation they have with their wives or girlfriends or whatever. It's none of your business. Keep your mouth shut, because you don't know nothing about it. And she said, okay. And she never did. I mean, it ain't none of her business what other guys do, either the wrestlers or anything. And what she's seen in the business would probably put a lot of them on the road somewhere if they ain't already on the road. But she wouldn't speak up. She wouldn't say anything. I mean, she knew a lot of the wrestlers' wives and stuff, and she'd see wrestlers with other people or this and I said, hey, you don't know their situation. And I've seen you on TV wrestling, all like you said, a couple of years apart between us, but we were so much alike that, if there's ever been a wrestler that I would worry about in the ring or out of the ring, it would have been you, because the way you go after people and stuff. And then it reminds me of me, and I don't want to get me. I don't want to go against me, but all these other guys that, I never had a fear of any of them. Hogan, the biggest wimp I ever met. I mean, he didn't have a place to stay when he started in the business. He'd come up our house and stay at our house. My daughter lay and sleep in her bedroom, and she'd go to the couch. And he was sleeping in a van. And we become real good friends. But this guy was the biggest coward I had ever seen. Now, we were good friends. I'm just telling you, out on the street and stuff. And then, but he was a good entertainer. He learned how to entertain, and he did what he had to do to make money. And that's, I guess that's the name of the game. But what I'm saying, there's nobody out there legitimately bad that I know of, except you would be the one that I would have to worry about. I don't know if I don't want to carry a baseball bat or
the ability. I think David.
Yeah.
I don't know from an ability to just hand-to-hand combat. I just know that like there's different levels of tough. You've kind of got you've got your guys, and like I think you kind of referenced in the book, Haku was one of the baddest guys that was ever in the business. I think I was kind of fit into the mold of, hey man, I was like a cockroach. Take the punishment of the business, get pile drived, almost get paralyzed, finish a match, that kind of toughness. But I want to go back to you just as far as your gift of gab. I know you guys grew up dirt poor, and but before your father passed away, what was he doing as a line of work? I'm just wondering where your gift of gab come from. Was talking your way out of situations, backing up what you had to do, or just being in the woods in Tennessee. And and for me, South Texas, when I started talking all my trash, people wondering, hey man, where did that come from? Well, that's just the people that I grew up hanging around, and that's the kind of stuff that I started spitting out. And so that was my style. So with your gift of gab, and just coming from being poor, talking your way out of situations or having to back your situation up, it just seems like it came really naturally to you, because you also, as far as going into your bounty hunter days, were able to really not manipulate people, but talk them into, hey man, you need to give yourself up. You've always had the gift of persuasion.
That's right. And let me tell you, that helped me more, the wrestling, talking, interviews and all that. And like Memphis was all live interviews, that when you worked down there. It was live. It wasn't no delay in anything. And you had to concentrate on what you're saying. You couldn't use curse words or anything else. They cut you right off. In Memphis, a lot of places have a delay, where they clean it up and all that. But it was so easy to talk to these guys, though, because like Lance Russell would just feed you on. Dave Brown would feed you on. They would go and let you talk. As long as you was carrying on, I don't know if it was a conversation, but a gab that they was interested in listening to you. They get so into you talking that they just about be memorized listening to you. And they'd say, oh, my God, what am I going to do now? This guy, he does. And I know I love Canada. That was where I really loved that up there with Ed Whalen. And he would go out, Stu Hart would come out and say, yeah, this kid got, he can talk and he can follow it up with a little action, too. And then I got into bounty hunting, That was the wrestling played such a big part in my bounty hunting, because people would see me all them years on TV, and I'd go out, and I had people come in with me, and they'd say, oh, yeah, Dr. D's out here, man, yeah, oh, yeah, I don't mind going to jail with him. Well, okay, then.
When did you stop bounty hunting?
Well, I didn't stop. I still, last month, let me see, sometime in February, I had to go get a guy. So I still do it every once in a while. I don't want to, because I'm not as quick as I used to be, and I'm not as sturdy as I used to be. I don't weigh about 230 now. I was 280, 290.
How much did your, grown-up child, poor, always having to fight, had your brothers, they was tough guys, and then all of a sudden, you go into the service, you come out of service, you're a welder, you decide, hey, man, let me give this pro wrestling a shot. And someone had told you about Herb Welch, who, when you came upon Herb Welch, was give or take around 6 or 7 years old. And you went and met him, and you was about 6'6", probably 260, 250, and you said he trained you. And so you started working out with Herb Welch. Tell me about the training that he put you through, because, in the book, you talk about how sore you are when you're coming home. You're in your car, you just lay on that horn, and Peggy's got to come and help get your ass out of the car and get you back inside. How rough was that training? Because I know when you first started having your first matches, he hadn't smartened you up yet. Now, I didn't kind of learn the shooting and the hooking that you learned. I was learning basically tumbling drills, a little bit of chain wrestling. I didn't get smartened up to my first match. But take me back to your first training sessions with Herb Welch. He was an older gentleman, but extremely tough and knew some stuff. What was your impressions once you got into the business?
Well, I wasn't a wrestling fan. I'd watch it every once in a while. I'd come on TV or whatever, and I'd run the option settling route because I was a certified welder. And I went by his house one day, and I stopped, and asked if he talked to me. He was a big fella, you know. The older days he started saying, but he was a big man, and his hands looked like catcher's mitts, you know, huge hands. And he said, "Yeah, what do you need, kid?" And I said, "Well, I heard that you might be training some wrestlers. I'd like to see if you train me to be a professional wrestler. What makes you think you can wrestle? All this here really deep voice, you know, and all this." I said, "Well, I don't know. I see it on TV. I think I can do it." And he said, "Well, okay, I'll do it. Costs $300. I said, "Okay." Back then, $300 a lot of money. And, you know, he said, "Show up like it was, I don't know what day of the week it was, but like a couple of days. Show up downtown at the theater. There's an old theater down there. And we'll see what you got." Okay, I went in. I thought he was going to have, 7, 8 guys there. Wasn't nobody with him. He said, "Okay, kid, get in the ring here." He said, "What do you know about wrestling?" "Well, not much." He said, "Okay, let me show you a couple of things." Oh, he started on me. And he tied me up. And I'd starved to death. He hadn't let me go. I don't know how he got, Oklahoma tumbleweed or something. He had stuff on me that I had no idea what he had. And the bones was cracking and muscles was tearing. I could hear it, And what he was trying to do, it discouraged me. He wanted the $300, but he wanted to discourage me. He wanted to be sure that I wanted to be a wrestler. He wanted to be absolutely sure that I could take it, So after a couple of hours, I couldn't feel it then. A couple of hours, I figured I was pretty good shape. I got in the car, drove 45 miles. He said, "I'll see you in a couple of days. Come back up here 2 days or whatever." And I said, "Okay." I drove home 45 miles, didn't get out of the car. I got to the house, and I could not open the damn door. I had to blow the horn, pull up in the yard. I didn't even park the drive. I pulled up by the door and blow the horn. Peggy come out and said, "What are you doing? What do you want?" I said, "You need to come out here and help me." She said, "Help you do what?" I said, "Help me get out of this damn car." I couldn't raise, my legs would not, I couldn't raise them. Yeah. They were locked. And my knees and back and neck and arms. And, she helped me in the house. I leaned up against her. She said, "Man, what's wrong with you?" I said, I need to get in a hot tub of water or whatever. And she brought some hot water. I went and got a hot tub of water and finally made it to bed and got up like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, had to go to work and work all day again. And, oh, my God, I went up there and I said, "Man, I don't know about this, So I went back up there. Next time up there, Herb was there by himself again. I was looking around, hoping there was more people there. But and Herb started hitting me with them open hand slaps. Oh, I had bruises all over me. And he just kept on. Never told me anything about working or anything. He said, "You think you're a tough guy? Come here." He like Stu Hart would get you down, put a Hulk on you, and then tell you, "Fight, you bastard, fight." Fight. But the Herb would just sit there and ride you, and they'd just blow you up. He was 67 years old now, and, I thought that was old, but man, I'd hate to have met him. He was 40 or 35. But anyway, went back home again, blowed my horn, and my wife come out again. She said, "Is this going to be every day? Are you going to do this?" I said, "I don't know. Oh, God, help me in the house. Run some water, Get the liniment this time." I was hurting. And then the next time, it started lightening up a little bit. I'd get back home. She would be coming out the door already to see me pull up because, I done got brave now. I'm starting to loosen up a little bit. I'm, the muscles and stuff. So next time I went up there, he had the bounty hunters up there, the David Novak, the old bounty hunters, and Al and Don Green used to wrestle for Nick Koulis and all that. They agreed to come by there and work out with me. So we got in there working out, and I was fighting. I was, they were working, I was fighting. And they told her, they said, "Hey, we can't come back up here, this guy, man. He's going to hurt us or cause us to hurt ourselves. Keep from hurting him. If you smart him up." Herb said, "No, I ain't smart him up." Now, this is about a month down the road or something, a little more. And Herb finally, after about 3 months of all that, he blinked. And then he had a couple more guys come in. Well, hell, I beat the hell out of all of them. He ain't told me nothing about, working. So the Petty boys come in, 2 brothers up there, and my dad had been working out for years and years. Never went anywhere, just worked local and all. But, you know, they were smart, I guess, because I'd beat the hell out of them, you know. And Herb finally called me and said, David, come outside here. He said, let me tell you something, kid. You ain't going to make a damn dime the way you're doing. He said, I said, why? What's up? What's wrong? He said, hell, you're too damn stiff, man. Hell, you're hurting people and stuff. You can't do that. He said, remember what I showed you. He said, you're going to need all them moves I showed you because those are shooting moves. I didn't know what shooting was. I didn't know what working was. I mean, he said, but if you're going to do anything, you got to start over with me. You got to forget what I've showed you. But don't forget it, but just forget what I showed you. I'm going to show you how to work and be a wrestler. Now, he was sure that I was going to be a wrestler. I've been there 3 months getting my ass whooped and ain't missed a day. So he took me in there, and he said, just don't forget what I showed you because you're going to need it overseas. You're going to need it because they're going to try you. Excuse me. And if you don't show them you know how to take care of yourself, they're going to walk all over you. They're going to treat you like shit. But if the promoters find out that you can take care of yourself and you're probably one of the toughest guys around, they're not going to use you because they can't control you. And they're afraid you'll take their belt and go home. I said, damn, Herb, what do you want me to do? He said, let me show you here. And then he showed me how, you know, loosen up a little bit, how you're too tight, how to squeeze a little bit, loosen up. And then he showed me this. And then we started. And then he sent me to Malden, Missouri. He said, go to Malden, Missouri. You and the Petty boys going over there. And you ain't going to make no money, but, you know. So, well, went over. I had $20 in my pocket when I left. I went to Malden, worked 5 times that night, worked as a single, tag team, 6-man tag, come back in a mask, and did a battle royal. And I said, damn, and in an old apartment building, old furniture building upstairs, you know. People throwing scissors at you, the old women, would have bricks in their purse, and scissors were sticking up in the ring. Now, I mean, you know, there's probably 300 or 400 people in that building. And the cops, one night, we did an angle fighting outside. Cop hit me with a blackjack twice. And I turned around and told him, don't you hit me again with that damn blackjack. We're going to fight. He backed up with that blackjack. And he come back and told Henry Rogers. He said, man, that guy there, you better take care of him. He's crazy, you know, and all this. And Henry Rogers didn't care. He gave me $20. I got back home, I had $10. Left with 20 and got back at 10. I got my ass whooped all over the place, you know. But it was such great experience. And I told Herb, I said, Herb, and you know what name Herb gave me?
What?
Rhode Island Red. That was my name, Rhode Island Red. Now, I got licensed under that in Missouri. Rhode Island Red. I thought it was a cool name. I didn't know it was a damn chicken, you know. Herb laughed about it. He said, yeah, you'll be a good Rhode Island Red. And I got in there, and boy, I'd go up there, and they hollered, Rhode Island Red. They gonna kick your ass right, boy. Yeah. We're going to burn your car when you come out. You ain't going to have no tires. We got something for you right here, and they all have baseball bats and shit or sticks sticking down their pants, you know, they can hit you with it or something. Anyway, I did that for, I don't know, probably a month of my life. Finally, I got broke, had to quit going. But anyway, Herb said, I got you booked in Memphis with Goulas, and I got over there in Lawler, Sam Bass, for a while there. Me and Lawler was tag team. And about a year, I guess, I was the fall guy for Lawler.
How did you and Lawler get along?
Well, we got along good because then I didn't know what he was doing. You know, he was using me to benefit himself, like Jimmy Baggett, you know. Nice guy, Jimmy Baggett. Nice guy. Lawler, they're all nice guys. But Jimmy Baggett never owned a car. He never missed a show. Because when you come in, he said, hey, brother, how you doing? Can I catch a ride with you? Damn, boy, don't you have a car? But anyway, Lawler, he would ride. And Lawler was a coward, man. Scared to death all the time. I don't know how many times guns were drawn on us. And Lawler said, David, this guy's got a gun. And I'd walk behind him, and he'd have a gun pointing at Lawler through the window. And I'd knock the hell out of him and take the gun away, throw the gun out in the parking lot, kick his ass, and jump in the car, we'd leave. And a lot of times, out in front of the Coliseum, I took off running after a guy. They stopped 2 or 3 of them in a car, and the guy was evidently he was going to try to whip our ass or something. So I grabbed a baseball bat, took off after him, hit him going across the road there in the Coliseum. And Lawler's hollering, "Down, David!" And he come running over, and he said, "You're gonna kill him?" "Yeah, I'll kill the son of a bitch if he stopped long enough. I can catch him." But we had a lot of trouble. But Lawler was always behind me. I was the one doing the punching or whatever, you know. I didn't argue with people, Steve. A guy come out, a fan come out, he said, "I'm gonna kill you." "Hell, show me." And he wouldn't have time to show me because I'm fixing to hit him just before he even had time to turn around. I hit him. That's where my MO got where, you know, I was sued for over $100 million while I wrestled. But you know what? I was not sued by John Stossel. Another subject. John Stossel. I want to get on that real quick here. You know, John Stossel did not sue me, and I did not hit him in his ears like he said. The Madison Square Garden doctor said that nothing was wrong with John Stossel. He had no damage to his ears whatsoever. Everything was good. John Stossel's brother in Boston said he had permanent ear damage the rest of his life. Never be able to hear again. Well, John Stossel here a couple of years ago on his show, he was doing one about scams and people stealing money and making false things, all this here. He said, "I'm guilty of that myself because my injuries was jurosomatic." Jurosomatic means that once you get paid, you don't hurt no more. That's exactly what he said on his show now.
I was just wondering, I've watched that back a couple of times this morning, and of course, when I started my podcast several years ago, that was something I always asked everybody. Man, what'd you think when Dr. D slapped John Stossel? I could appreciate it, especially back in, 85 when that happened, 84, 85?
Yeah, 84, I believe.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I broke into business in 89. It was still protected even back in the day. If somebody said it was, you know, fake, I mean, they were damn near fighting words. If you was a bar, it was a fight. And so I can kind of appreciate the mentality. And alongside with, being in, I guess that was Madison Square Garden. And that's kind of, you know, that's the backyard. That's kind of holy ground. And so, you know, I know that he was going around doing his interviews. And so all of a sudden it gets to you. And, you know, according, you know, to what you said, you know, hey, Vince said, "Hey, man, you know, give this guy something or whatever." So do you think, looking back, do you think you worked yourself into a shoot? Because I was talking to Bret Hart right before. I guess there was something that had already happened before that night, that evening, that you had already, you was already a little bit hot to begin with. What happened earlier that evening?
No, it wasn't hot. What it was, see, Vince come to the dressing room. I come in the dressing room, of course, got dressed, and Vince come in, and he said, "David, I want you to go out here and do an interview. This guy's making a joke out of the business." He was 2020 News. I didn't know John Stossel. And, you know, you don't go out in Madison Square Garden and do an interview unless Vince tells you to, or somebody tells you to. You know, you didn't walk out there and start interviewing. So he said, "I want you to go out and I want you to blast him. I want you to tear his ass up. Stay in character. Dr. D." And then everybody in the dressing room heard that. Alpha, Seeker, the boys in there, they all heard Vince over there talking to him. They might not have heard exactly what he said, but they heard him talking to me. So he went out. A few minutes later, a guy comes in. The Iron Sheik was out in the hallway, along with Fuji in the hallway, leaning up against the door facing, one on one side and one on the other side. Neither one of these guys moved an inch during that whole thing. Now, you know and I know, Steve, if there's some shit going down in the hallway, like went down there, somebody's going to be moving and saying, "Hey, hold up, wait a minute, hey," you know. They was enjoying the show. And John Stossel come out, and him and another guy come out, and he tried to talk to me 2 times or 3 times. I forget how many it was because so many people around there. And the one everybody's seen is where he was talking to me, and I said, "What's wrong, boy? Can't you talk?" He said, "No, you're right." I go, "Yeah, right." And Vince already told me to make a joke out of it. I didn't know nothing about Eddie Mansfield and him. I knew nothing about Hogan and him. I knew nothing. And Vince told me to blast him, tear his ass up. And then he said, "That's great. Well, I think you're fake." He didn't say that. He said, "I think it's fake." But I thought he said, "I think you're fake." So I said, "Fake? Well, this is an open hand slap." Pow. He went down on the jaw, not on the ear, nowhere near the ear. He got up, and I was always taught, "Man, get up. You need to put him back down." Because, you know, John might have got mad and wanted to whoop my ass coming up. I doubt it, but, you know. But I had to hit him with the left because he was just there. The left was there. He wasn't quick enough to dodge it. And then he took off running. And here comes Vince running down. "Oh, what the hell is the matter with him?" And then he comes in and he tells me, David, get ready, do your match. And Inoki, they sent it back down, moved me down. I was like main event or whatever, but they put it down to get the show on. And I come out of the match. Vince said, David, get your stuff together, get out, go to the hotel downtown. I forget, Howard Johnson or whatever. And he said, everything's okay. They're talking about they want to arrest you or whatever, but it's going to be okay. Well, what a lot of people don't know is I got suspended from the New York Athletic Commission. I didn't even have a license to work in New York. I don't know how they can suspend somebody for not wrestling. $3,000 fine, and Vince paid that, he said. Baltimore, Maryland suspended me. L.A. suspended me. Several other states suspended me. Within a week, I was reinstated, all of them. They all reinstated me after they watched the tape and seen what happened. So Hogan didn't want me around anymore, see. Me and Hogan had this thing that he always thought he could beat me, even when we were running around together and, going to the gym together and everything. He always thought he could beat me. I said, you couldn't beat my wife, let alone me. And he'd get mad. I'd get him in the ring, and I'd hook him a little bit, and I'd let him go. You don't want to pick up the match or anything. You don't want to screw everything up for 100,000 people. So we'd be there, we'd do, and even with Vern Gagne, when we were bleeding, both of us go to the hospital bleeding, Minnesota. We both went. And, he got so scared that I was going to beat him for the belt on live TV. In other words, they believed me. The promoters believed me. They were scared of me because when I told them something, they were scared, Steve. Hey, promoter come down to the dressing room. You know what I tell him? Hey, you have a license to be in here? He said, well, Dr. D, yeah, I'm the promoter here. I'm Joe, whatever. I don't give a damn who you are. Get your ass out of the dressing room. If you don't have an athletic license, you get out of here. I'd run him out. The police come down in uniform with their kids, and they said, hey, Doc, come over and give my boy an autograph. I said, go cuff yourself. Take your boy with you. Get out of here. If you don't have an athletic license, get out. He said, hey, we protect you out there. I don't need your protection. Get out of the dressing room. So, oh, my God, Brooklyn. Oh, I was going out of the gym, out of one of them big gyms, and I was walking across there, had my head thing on my towel on my head and all that going. And they was over there talking to, I don't know, Johnny Rods or different ones. And they said, oh, yeah, that's that Dr. D. That's that asshole. We're going to catch him out on the street one day. We're going to show him 3 or 4 of them tossing cops, right? Well, you know what? Those cops buy a ticket to see me get my ass whooped next time. I mean, they hated me.
Once the slap happens, you go over to Japan. Well, basically, they want you to work the same angle over there. You do. They end up using that back against you later on down the line. Before you know it. I mean, and this was right before WrestleMania 1, which was literally 2 to 3 weeks away, give or take. You were probably going to be a big part of that. You were figured in. I was talking to Bret Hart. I mean, he absolutely has the utmost respect for you. And he really enjoyed working with you down there in Calgary. Stu liked you. The one time you stood up for Bret in the dressing room and took up for him. And he gave me the guy's name. And he goes, David didn't have to do that. And David was the guy that came up and gave me confidence and said that, he goes, kid, you don't really need to worry about learning how to work anymore. You can work better than anybody here. You need to work on your promos. You need to learn how to talk. So, as it says in the forward of the book, I mean, the guy had a lot of respect for you. And I was asking, Bret, and he says, man, he goes, I just always, David was always good to me. He was always honest with me. He was always very fair with me. And I really, really, really enjoyed working with him. And he was a very, very good hand in the ring. So you would have been figured in. You were running around with Hogan, whatever. Y'all had your difference of opinions, but all of a sudden you're out of the business. I mean, you were blacklisted. Yep. How long did it take for that to sink in? How long did that mess with you? Just because when I asked, I left the business because I got dropped on my head, and after a few years it caught up with me, and I needed to get out. And, for 3 years, I mean, it took me a long time to swallow that pill. So all of a sudden, you're hot and heavy. You're the most dangerous man in the business. You stay in character. You're trying to make people hate you. You're very successful. Now you're out. Yep. Did you not skip a beat? I mean, how much did you sell this? And what did Peggy think?
Well, Peggy, she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, ain't nothing I can do. Vince said he ain't going to use me, so I started going to independence, and I was getting $1,000 a night working independence 7 days a week. That's pretty good money. I mean, for just, independence. And I kept going, and then I started going overseas, a lot of different overseas trips, a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there. And then the independents, everybody started dropping their price. Everybody started saying, well, you're paying Schultz $1,000 a night. You can get me and 2 or 3 other guys here. You can get the Alpha and Sika and Johnny Rod, somebody else or whatever, instead of getting Schultz, And the promoters started buying that. And I don't blame them. I mean, they were getting them for $200 a piece a night, and they paying me $1,000. Anyway, that went on for probably a year. Then a guy come up and asked me, he said, David, have you ever considered being a bounty hunter? I said, what, a bounty hunter? Riding a horse with guns and shit out in the old West? He said, no. I mean, he said, a bounty hunter. He said, go out and pick people up at Skip Pond. I didn't know nothing about all that, And he said, if you'd like to try it, man, they got some badass guys that they need somebody to go pick up that nobody will go pick up. They're scared of them. I said, what kind of money does it pay? He said, well, you can make damn good money. You make 10% of the bond, according to what the bond is. If it's, if it's say it's $50,000, you can make $5,000 plus your expenses. $100,000, you make $10,000 plus your expenses. And I started checking into it, talking to him more and more. And anyway, he introduced me to these bonds when they said, yeah, we got some motorcycle guys that they want one of their own picked up. It was Diablos up in, I believe it's New Britain, Connecticut, or Hartford, Connecticut. They got a guy out on bond, and they went up on his bond. They're going to lose all this money if they don't get him in. Nobody wants to go get him because he's badass. Okay, what do you want me to do? He said, well, do you want to go get him? We'll pay you, they'll feel that there. I said, well, first thing I got to do is meet with the club, the head guy with the club, the motorcycle club. And he said, why you got to meet with him? I was like, hell, I'm not going against a damn club. You'll get a damn club. I mean, they don't understand, And I met with them, Diablos, and the guy told me, the head guy, come out. He said, hey, Doc, how you doing, man? He said, I need you to go pick this guy up. You got our blessing. He's up in West Virginia or whatever it was. And I said, okay. What else can you tell me? Nothing. Just a badass. Don't turn your back on him. And, okay. So 2 days later, I found a guy just probably 50 miles from there, in Connecticut. He wasn't in West Virginia. And he come out of his house and going to the store. And I walked right toward him. When I got right toward him, I put 357 in his mouth, took him to the ground, put handcuffs on him, turned him in, and got paid. It was simple,
All right, let's take a quick pause for the calls and get big ups to True Car. Hey, man, here's some useful car tips. Although I've been talking about them, maybe you didn't hear them. Maybe you're not aware of them, but here they are. A coffee filter and a little bit of olive oil can clean your interior. Removing excess weight from your car will improve gas mileage. One more. Placing your key fob to your chin will increase its range. Yeah, may be strange, but it is true. Are you ready for one more tip you might not know about? TrueCar also helps people get used cars. That's right, TrueCar ain't just for buying new cars. With their certified dealer network and nationwide inventory of nearly 1 million used cars, you'll enjoy real pricing on actual inventory and a simpler buying experience whether you buy new or used. And with TrueCar, users can see what others paid, so they know if they're getting a good deal before buying. They're also more likely to enjoy a faster buying experience by connecting with TrueCar certified dealers. When you're ready to buy a new or used car, check out TrueCar and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states. You're also going to need car insurance for that new vehicle. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
Hello, guys. It's MMA fighter Chael Sonnen. Check out my podcast, You're Welcome, with Chael Sonnen every Wednesday and Friday right here at PodcastOne. We cover the latest in mixed martial arts and everything else going on in the world of sport. Listen free to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen, exclusively available on Apple Podcasts, at PodcastOne.com, and on the Podcast One app. If you love the show, share it with a friend and leave us a rating and review.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
David, going back to when you started your bounty hunting days, I know, when you come over to business, Herb Welch is training you. You're green as grass, and it's the same for all of us. I mean, and you're working snug because you ain't been smartened up yet. And then you're going through the learning process, okay? And we all do that. Well, going through the bounty hunting process, all of a sudden, this is something that your Army background, all of your Herb Welch training, that's great. But how long was it before you got the first guy you went after, the bikers, and so you had success? But how long did it take you to become extremely good at what you did with respect to that job, as far as building up your connections, your snitches, techniques, talking people down, doing the time in the car? It's not always like on TV you're busting in holding a gun on somebody, doing your homework, lots of downtime, traveling, waiting. I mean, how long did it take you to where you were as good as you got?
Well, it took a good while because, you have to develop your contacts, and people are really scared to give you information that they're not supposed to release. Like in New York, I was going up there trying to get into the welfare system in New York, which is a no-no. So I had a contact up there, the welfare department, walked in and said, man, we can't give you anything like that. We can't do that. We can't do that. No, it can't. You got to have a court order to do that and all this here. And I said, well, listen, let me show you something. I walked out the door there. I gave him $100, and I said, I sure do need these couple names right here. And nobody ever know. He kind of looked around, put the $100 in his pocket, gave me a call later and told me the exact address. From then on, he was my contact. And every time I'd go up there, I'd give him $100, $200, according to how much the bond was, and he'd give me the Social Security, he would give me the welfare department. I mean, anybody on welfare, And what happened, these guys have a thing where they leave Connecticut, go to New York, they get it instant on welfare immediately. Maybe not them, but their wife or their girlfriend or whatever. And Social Security numbers, same thing. And then you develop the telephone system. You make contacts with a telephone company. Same people don't want to tell you anything. But money talks, bullshit walks. If you pay them, you can get the information. Police departments used to help me. They would give me information that was, that's a no-no, but they would give it to me. And policemen helped me a lot of times. They'd have the guy sitting in the car, and they'd call me and say, well, we got Jose Gonzalez here. You still looking for him, David? Yes, I am. Okay, he's over here. Come over here on Capitol Street. Come over there. They give him to me, put him in the car. Boom, I give him $500, and I'm gone.
Going back to some of the wrestling people that you befriended or met along the ways, I was watching your match with Andre, a couple of your matches with Hogan, and of course the rib you played on Orndorff when he was out there mowing his yard. How was working with Andre? I mean, a big dude. You caught him. I met him right in. I guess it's probably around 93 or something, 94 maybe, but he had come through WCW. He was on crutches. He was really he was out of the ring by then and getting in pretty bad health. But I was a nobody. I was stunning Steve Austin, but here was Andre the Giant, and I just at least had to go shake the man's hand, and I introduced myself to him, and that was it. But how was it being in the ring with the guy, and everybody called him the boss? I was working with Andre the Giant.
I love working with Andre. Andre was such an easy guy to work with. Now, he'd drop his hand on you, he'd give you a hit across the back, just about knock all the breath out of you. He didn't mean to. He just that way he was, And I was 6'5", a little over 6'5", and my head come right to the underneath his chest, his pecs. And, he could, anytime he wanted to, he could just grab you. I mean, his hands was huge. He'd take a silver dollar and drop it right through his ring finger. On his finger, he'd take the ring off and drop the silver dollar through it. That's how big his fingers was.
Yeah.
I told him, when I had anything that big, he kind of laughed, oh, boss. Hey, boss, yeah, give me another beer. But, hey, he was great in the ring. Easy to work with, too. I mean, if you actually, they call it potato, but if you stiff on him, he liked it better because he didn't like to sell something that didn't look good, And I'd have to go out there and I'd beat the hell out of him. I mean, I knew I had it coming when he did his comeback, but I mean, at least he loved it. He liked it. When me and Piper, they throwed him out on a stretcher, Madison Square Gardens, you know. Me and Piper beat him. They had to come get him out of the ring, juice and everything, blood everywhere. And he loved it, you know. And I just, man, the guy was great. Always nice. Always, I never seen him upset, you know. And when I worked with him, it was a pleasure to work with him. And it was a pleasure to work with the Bear. I don't know if Bear or Andre was the easiest. I guess Andre was easier, but the Bear, I always loved wrestling the Bear, you know. What an easy night. You know, all the big guys. I used to wrestle I'd work with all the big guys, you know. Tex McKenzie was, I don't know, 6'9", 6'10". He was great. Bobo Brazil. Easy guys to work with. Ernie Ladd. Easy guys to work with. I mean, and people would hate to go out in the ring with them, because, you know, they were scared of them, I guess, because they were big. But, you know, they was easy to work with, man. I mean, especially me, because they thought I was going to get my ass whooped. The people, so they loved it, you know.
When you got out of the business and started bounty hunting, were you too busy to keep up with what was going on in the business? Did you get completely away from the wrestling scene?
You know, nobody, not one guy ever called me and said, Doc, anything we can do for you? Doc, would you do it? Nobody spoke up for me. When the lawsuits was out there, I tried to get guys, hey, you heard Vince say that. No, I can't. And I understand. They afraid of their job. They couldn't do nothing else. That's their life. That's what they had to do, you know, is wrestle, they thought. And, you know, I couldn't believe that somebody would speak up for somebody and never call you and ask you if you're okay. Never anything, you know. And I didn't need it, and I didn't care, because I've always been a type guy that if somebody don't want to tell me, hey, you know, I go around the day. I've been chopping wood all winter for 2 different families down here. I've been supplying them wood for their stoves because they're poor. And one of them had a pacemaker put in. He couldn't cut his wood. The other one had a heart attack. And I'm doing all that for them. Also, I'm glad it's getting warm now, wearing me out on this wood. I mean, not really. I didn't mind doing it all, you know. And every time I take a load over there, I don't know how we're going to pay you, but you don't owe me nothing. It's just enjoy the wood, you know. And, you know, I spend a lot of my time out here cutting wood and giving it to people. I don't sell it, but I give it to them. I do anything I can for anybody until they screw over me. If they screw over me, hey, I'm on a bend there. I want to screw them any way I can get them. Any way I can get them if it comes up, you know. But usually don't come up because I don't associate with them no more.
What was your mindset on the road? Because I know you from reading the book, you seem to like to stay away from the hotels where the boys stayed and just kind of mind your own business. Yeah. Obviously, you had to travel with somebody. I know you traveled alone a little bit. But why did you choose to stay away from everybody? Was that just part of your upbringing, or you weren't into a lot of the things on the side that people have a tendency to get into, whether it's the wrestling business, entertainment business, or whatever? And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep. And that's what happens. All the promotion of them hotels, all that there, and I knew somebody's going to get in trouble one day. Somebody's going to talk about something or whatever. And I always stayed away from everybody. And, you know, my earlier days on hotels, you know, the only way we had a hotel room, we didn't make no money. You know what that's like, going around making, you know, a couple $100 a week. So we had to have a way to stay in the hotel room. So we used Motel 6. You know, they had those key drops where, you know, when you leave, the people check out, they drop the key in the box. So we had a coat hanger. And what we do about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, we go in that box and we pull a key out and go to the room, because nobody's going to get the keys till tomorrow morning. They ain't going to know nobody checked out. And we had our own sheets and blankets and everything, you know, so that's how we got our rooms. That's awful, ain't it?
Well, I mean, back in the days, we was packed like sardines in some of the biggest shitbox hotels we could find. There was a time when me and Kevin Nash were traveling together, and he was as cheap as I was. I mean, it was almost like a rib. We would rib ourselves to stay in the worst hotels possible. And now, we didn't do that forever, but we did it a few times, and then we finally started making some money, so you kind of get the upgrade. But there for a while, it was just part of, I don't know, a rite of passage or paying dues or whatever. But we just thought it was a blast to stay in some of the worst hotels we could find, and we enjoyed ourselves.
Oh, we did too. Down Panama City Hall, we go to them cheap hotels. $15, $20 a night. 4 of us go in a hotel. We pull the mattresses off twin beds, and everybody have a mattress and box spring or whatever. But hell, you couldn't get up and go to the bathroom. Couldn't walk. The building wasn't big enough. That'd step on people. And they hated to stay in there with me. They afraid I was going to do something to them, cause them a problem. You know, I just always like to joke with guys, you know. And we had I'll tell you about this old guy up in Connecticut, Steve. You'll enjoy this now. My neighbor, I lived on a cul-de-sac. And we was the only one there, my wife and me. And then other people, the guy died, and they started selling off the property. So 3 other families moved in. And one guy was an asshole. Nobody got along with him. And he hated dogs. And he didn't want dogs in his yard, so he put a big fence up and all this here. So what I did, I had a Bouvier de Flounder, 160 pounds. When he went out and took a dump, I mean, it was a dump. And I'd take that stuff and I'd freeze it. You know, I had an old freezer and I'd freeze it. And 12 o'clock at night, I'd go out and shoot it over in his yard with a slingshot. And I'd shoot it all over his yard. And the next day, he'd be out there scraping his head, rubbing his head, all this, you know. Then I graduated from that and went to weed tiller, grass tiller. And I was freezing that and shooting it over in his yard. He'd get these big brown spots. Pretty soon he was just killing everything in his yard, you know. He never did figure it out, I don't think. Then when it really got hot in the summertime, I'd shoot it on his roof, you know, the dog mess, and it'd melt on the roof, and that was fun.
You were ribbing the neighbors. Were you a big ribber in the business, or did you enjoy watching ribs? I mean, because, on one hand, when they start getting malicious, that's not funny. But, man, when you've been strung out on the road for weeks and weeks at a time, a rib can sure elevate morale.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, a couple of them in there, in that book, they was, I come out of if you left your coffee in Calgary, if you left it in the room, if you walked out of the room, went to the bathroom, left your coffee sitting by your bag, you don't know if you're going to be able to walk next hour or not. Somebody do something to your coffee. Yeah. They're going to drop something, acid or something going to be dropping your coffee, and you ain't going to know it unless you know what the effects are, you know. So they did me one night. They got me. I left my coffee, and I never do it. I don't know why I did it that night. But I told them, I said, listen, I don't care. Y'all got me. But I just want to know how much you got me because I got to drive 500 miles tonight. Right now, I'm okay, but I can feel it. Bladder acid, I know. I said, I want to know how much is in there. Somebody tell me, y'all got me. So one guy called and said, Doc, you're okay, man. I said, oh, did you do it? No, man, I'm just telling you, okay. So a week later, go home, Peggy's fixing cookies. So I go in there and said, hey, fix me a couple of trays of cookies there, those chocolate chip cookies. What for? I want to take it to the boys. I love the boys, in the dressing room. I like them, Also, I had about 6 bags, 6 packs, 8 packs of X-Lax. And I put those X-Lax, cut them up in little cubes, put them all over the cookies, and let them cook, put them in a bag. And the Peggy's cookies was good, so I grabbed 5 or 6 of them, put them right on top so I knew where they were. So I'd take a big old bag and a grocery bag into the dressing room. Hey, guys, here's some cookies, man. Yeah, let me grab mine. I grabbed some on top and started eating. So everybody tore that bag off. Everyone was gobbling them cookies down. Just blah, 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 blah. Next day, they come in. They started coming in the dressing room. I said, man, I don't know what happened. My stomach's been messed up all night. I said, yeah. He said, yeah, mine has too, man. The other guy said, we have too. I said, man, I don't know who's pulling the joke around here. This is not a joke because I'm really messed up, And, I had to, they thought, Anyway, then it really didn't get over that good, some of them a week, before they got straightened out. Then I got horse laxative and mixed it up in the cookies and took it into the dressing room. And now, some of them had to go to the hospital. They didn't know. They said, man, I eat and it runs right through like water. I said, I'm the same way, man. Oh, my God, I got to get to the bathroom. Watch it move out of the way. Wasn't nothing wrong with it. I go in there like, oh, my stomach's killing me, And they never did figure that out. They did after the book probably, but, And then I had some Flexrail, which is a muscle relaxer. And I melted those down and put them in some cookies for them, too, They really enjoyed that. Some of them couldn't even walk to the ring. They had to help them get to the ring. They'd stagger and walk and run around. And my wife said, you better quit that shit, I said, I'm not doing nothing. I said, I think it's one of them doing it,
as much as you travel in the wrestling business and then you get in the bounty hunting business, I mean, you're all over the place because you're even going to different countries, and you did that for 20 years. Now that, I can't speak for you. I'll tell you my story. You know, when I ended up getting out of business some time ago, it was hard for me to get over not traveling. So a lot of times I get my pickup truck. Hell, I drive 40 miles down to the Sonic, get me a jalapeno burger and a diet vanilla Coke, and drive back home. And so
ain't nothing wrong with that.
I feel like I was on the road. So anyway, I always talk about, I was on the road forever. And when I was on the road, I kind of like being in zombie mode because that's what you do and that's your life. And I could be on the road for 2-3 weeks. And I'm like, God dang, man, I'm sick of this road. I'm ready to get home. And then all of a sudden I'd go home. And after a day and a half, I'd say, I'm bored. I'm ready to get back on the road. I mean, so it was kind of a love-hate thing for me. And then, finally, all these years later, I kind of say I've turned back into a civilian. Now I don't really like to travel. I mean, if I got to go somewhere to do a job and maybe I'm there for 3 or 4 weeks, that's one thing, but I just don't like jumping around from place to place. And, back in the day, we'd come back home from the road, and you're probably the same. I just put my suitcase right in front of the washer and the dryer, and whatever was dirty, I washed. Whatever was clean, I left in there, and I just put the same shit right back in my suitcase, and I was ready to go because ain't nobody knew what I was wearing in different towns. It was all the same shit.
That's right.
So
that's right.
These days, I kind of read, because I know you and Peggy got into, over the road. You was driving an 18-wheeler for a while, and y'all enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But I know you guys don't travel too much anymore. You kind of say like a homebody, which what I look at myself as. So is all the traveling out of your system? Do you enjoy it anymore? Are there any, after being all over the world, are there any, you want to go to the Grand Canyon or whatever it is and go look at something? Or are you just cool being in Tennessee, still doing your work?
No, I just, I still drive a lot. I still go a lot of places, but I don't, I love traveling. She doesn't. Last time we got rid of our last truck we had, we was 5 years out there hauling nuclear waste. And after we got rid of that truck, she said, I'm not getting back in the damn truck again. That's it. So she started buying these dogs, not buying and picking them up dogs that dropped off on our property. So now we got dogs and we can't get nobody to take care of them, so they're too damn mean. So she has to stay and take care of the dogs. But I still drive every year. I work for cotton gin during cotton season, 3 months a year, but that's like 17, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 months. I was working 135 hours a week last year. And then after that, I go over here to another place, transfer trailers, tractor trailers, and I transfer trailers for them. And I do that for a couple of months. And, that's all I can do. I don't want to get back out on the road. I still have a CDL Class A and all that, and hazmat. I have people calling me every day. I can't deal with the DOT and all that, but I love the road, man. I just, a couple of years ago, I was running a 2500 Dodge. I got two of them, and I had a gooseneck trailer, and I would haul these radiators for locomotives all over the United States, And, I'd come to L.A., and back to Jackson, which is Memphis and Jackson. I do that in 3 days, out there and back.
That's a good stretch.
People say, how can you do that? I say, hey, I just do it, man. I just do it. I don't sleep all the way out there. And when I get out there and drop off the stuff, I get a hotel room, sleep 5 or 6 hours, and I'm heading back, Oh, I may pull over and take a 10-minute nap, and then take off again. But I love that. And the guy sold his business, so I ended up with 2 trucks. And, everybody wants me to drive for them, but I don't like driving for other people. I like to do my own. My wife done told me, you need to stop it. I said, okay, I'll stay home and just do the cotton thing and whatever, That cotton thing is a pretty good thing. I drive a tractor trailer during cotton season, hauling cotton from the gin to the warehouses, and that's a pretty good thing. But a lot of hours, which I don't mind, and I do pretty good at that. And I do autographs every once in a while. I don't do a lot of them, but because I don't want to pay. I'm not going anywhere for anybody. I got as high as $4,000 before I go to an autograph thing. And, usually I get 2,500, something like that. And everybody says, well, we can get other guys a lot cheaper than that. Well, you need to get them then. Leave me alone. I mean, I don't care. See, that's where they make a mistake. They don't understand. I don't care. It don't bother me one way or the other. What bothers me is that they don't want to pay anybody, but they want to make all the money. And then they get mad at me when I go. I say, hey, you got to pay me before I sign the first autograph. What? What do you mean? What'd I say? You don't understand English now? You pay me my money before I sign a damn autograph. He said, well, will you go ahead and start signing? No. What's wrong with you? And he said, I'll give you your money. I said, yeah, you're going to give me my money or I'm going home right now. And he reached in his pocket full of money. I'll pay me. That's all I need. I said, I'll start signing autographs.
I got to ask you a story about one of your bounty hunting tales. I mean, because you had some good ones with Ken Passeria, was an old bodybuilder, a good friend of yours. And then, of course, can't forget about Butch Cassidy, that rib you pulled on him when the guy had his handcuffs on and needed to go to the bathroom. There's some good ribs in there. And you brought your wrestling mentality as far as traveling down the road, because if anybody got in the car with you, if you're driving, they cannot go to sleep. And that's old school because, the guy's supposed to be there. Ain't nobody sleeping in the car. You got to stay awake. But the story I wanted you to share, there's a bunch of good bounty hunting stories in the book, but I particularly enjoyed the one where Peggy went along with you because you needed her to pat down a female. And boy, you tell a story.
Yeah, she was, I told her, I said, you need to go with her because this girl, she gets her check today and she always cashes this grocery store in Massachusetts. And Butch Cassidy was with her. And I told Butch and her to stay outside. And I said, I'll holler at you on the radio when she starts out the door. And I went up in the attic of the store. It's a little place up there. You can watch all the cash rush. The guy with me up there, I showed him my ID and talked to her. He said, yeah, just go on up there when she comes and, and here she comes walking in, cashing her check. So I called and said, hey, here she comes out the door. Y'all grab her. And I got down and started outside. Got out there, and Butch had another girl. Done grabbed another girl, weighed about 300 pounds, same size as the one we're looking for. And I go out there and said, hey, that's the wrong damn girl. Oh, get over here. There she goes. Grab her, Butch. Butch runs up there, and he grabs her, and Peggy's standing there, and after we grab her, I said, Peggy, you need to search her. Well, what do you mean, search her? I said, search her. Be sure she ain't got a knife or gun or something like that. She said, I don't want to touch her. I said, well, you got to touch her. I can't touch her. We're out in the parking lot. You got to do that. She said, oh, my God, I don't want to touch her. And she gave me hell, boy. And she finally patted her down, found out. She said, I don't have no gun. I don't have any gun. I said, hey, she'll find out. Peggy would tell you. I said, oh, my God, that girl probably ain't had a bath in a month. But she had her check. She wanted her check. So anyway, we throw it in the car, and Peggy had to sit back there with her in the back seat. And I told Peggy, keep an eye on her. Oh, don't worry, she ain't going nowhere. Oh, my God, hurry up and get me home. Took her and dropped off jail, went home. Peggy pulled her clothes off and burned them. Threw them out and burned them in the garbage. She said, I don't want to ever touch them damn clothes. Don't you ever take me anywhere else and let me. And I didn't really have to have her to do it. I knew the girl didn't have it. I just kind of like wanted to see what it's all about. Now, today, it's so bad that, matter of fact, you mentioned Kenny Passerello. They was talking to me the other day. One guy up there said, please come up here and work for us. Bounty hunt. I'm not coming up there and do no bounty hunt work for you. I said, man, no. How many guys you got doing it? He said, we got 5. And they can't find nobody? He said, they can find them, but they all go to the front door. Oh, that's a good thing. Everybody goes to the front door and knocks on the door. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
5 of them at the front door. Now, what the hell? I mean, who's covering the back door? Who's covering the window? Who's covering the chimney? Who's covering the attic? And these guys hide in wash machines, dryers, under couches, under beds. They hide. They'll hide places where you never thought they would. I mean, they strive to have a wash machine or a dryer gutted, and they get in that wash machine, and the lid's closed, and they pile clothes on top of it. Nobody looks at it. No law enforcement goes in and looks at wash machines. I found several times found the wash machine. I tried to turn it on a couple times. Hell, this thing don't work, woman. She said, no, it don't work. It's tore up. Okay. I know something's wrong, you know. But, you know, it's fun doing all that. And like I said, man, I've had a good life. My daughter, you know, she got a master's degree. I don't know if she got a doctorate yet, but she was a head of a farm school in New York, superintendent of farm school. And, you know, got 2 grandkids. And, of course, she don't want them down here with me, afraid I'm going to turn them into rednecks or whatever.
Hey, Doc, how long did it take you and John Cosper to write this book?
A year and a half, maybe 2 years. When John started on it, you know, he was recommended to me by Bob Bryla, which is the New York Athletic Commission commissioner. And I've been looking for somebody to write it, but every time I talk to somebody, they say, oh, my God, I don't know if I can, I don't know, you know, I said, well, never mind. So John started, and he met me, come down and talk to him. We sit down and talk. And he showed me the books. He had 2 or 3 books wrote already, and he gave me a copy of them, and I took them home and gave them to Peggy. She read them, and she said, okay, I don't like it, you know. But anyway, when he started, he sent a script, you know. After about 6 months, he sent the first little draft, you know. And Peggy told him, said, hey, you can throw that shit in the garbage. You ain't writing a book like that. No. He said, what's wrong? I said, what's wrong? It don't have no color. It don't have no flowers. You have no direction. I want it to be like the person is there. When he's reading it, he can actually see in his mind what's going on. You know, I mean, just like right at the first of the book, Madison Square Garden, John Stossel, it makes you feel like you're part of it going there. And he said, oh, my God, I don't know. I said, I thought you was a writer. He said, yeah, but it's never been explained to me that way. I said, well, bounty hunting stories, you can't just say, I go and pick up paperwork, and I go to the house, knock on the door. That's it. I've looked for people 2 years before I found them. And a lot of them take 6 months, 8 months, because they've done scared the hell out of them, and they're running. And let me tell you, it's hard to find people. It ain't hard on me to find them because I'm not scared.
You happy with the book when you read the last version of it? Because I enjoyed reading it.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, I loved it. My wife has read it 4 times. And the reason she read it 4 times, the first time she couldn't put it down, she's picking out little things like commas, punctuation, and stuff. She used to be a proofreader when she was a private investigator. And I told John, I said, you need to change all this here, this here, this here. He said, well, I've got a proofreader that's going to read everything. Okay, you get it proofread and then send it back. He got it proofread and sent it back. She still found 4 pages of mistakes, misspellings and different things on it. But John really went in depth. He really, I told him, I said, you should have told more bounty hunting stories. Well, David, you know, if you did, you're going to have a 1,000-page book. What we told right now is so fascinating. Everybody has said, I can hardly put it down, you know. And I'll tell you, I guarantee anybody that buys that book, if they sit down and read it, if they're husband and wife, say the husband buys it or the wife buys it or whatever, and they're reading it, I'll guarantee you they won't read that book until they'll be telling their husband or wife, whichever one, say, oh, my goodness, can you believe this? Look at this. Come here and read this. Can you believe he done this or done that? I mean, it's something you talk about. And it's so fascinating that everybody that I have had one negative thing about the book. It's even my wife lived it 48 years. She said, I've lived everything in this book. I've lived it, and I can't put it down. She said, I'm on the 4th time. I've read it 4 times now. And she said, not to see what's in it or looking for mistakes or anything. I just enjoy reading about the stories of it, you know. And, you know, people just everywhere, even the older people around here, a couple of them, I had to give them the books. They couldn't afford it and everything. And, you know, they begged me. They said, oh, I'll pay you when my check gets here. No, he'll take it, you know. And then I found out they pass it around. Everybody in their families read it. It cost me all them sales.
Yeah, but you know what? I enjoyed it because coming from the business, I enjoyed the wrestling stories. I mean, your time in the business and the old days. Because, like I said, you're a generation ahead of me, so I really enjoy the old school stuff. But also just as a fan of the bounty hunting business, which I know nothing of, which I know something of now, just hearing the stories and just doing your homework, doing your diligence, and I don't know. You sometimes if you watch your YouTube videos, you just caught up in the Dr. D. David Schultz, persona. You think, okay, man, this guy, he's a hell of a promo. He's a wrestler, but all of a sudden, when you've gone through the army, you know how to weld. You ran a place in Poland. I mean, you're a smart guy, and you apply your intelligence, with the bounty hunting business. And so I just enjoyed all the stories, and I enjoyed the book. And I know it's on Amazon. It's called Don't Call Me Fake. It's the real story of Dr. D. David Schultz, and it's written by Dr. D. David Schultz with John Cosper. It's forwarded by one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, a good friend of mine, Bret the Hitman Hart, does a great job on the forward. It's on Amazon. Is there any place else to find the book, David, or we got it covered?
Yeah. They can also buy it at eatsleepwrestling.com. That's John Cosper's personal website. It's eatsleepwrestling.com. And it's also some of the book outlets has got it too. But Amazon, I think we're number 2 on Amazon now overall. I'm telling you, it's a fantastic book. It's fantastic reading. And the thing about the reading part of it, I had him to make the writing large writing, so when you pick it up, like when I pick it up, I don't need reading glasses to read it. He said, maybe we ought to make the writing smaller because it'll save us 7-8 pages. I said, no, don't touch the writing. Leave it where it is. The words are, I don't know if you noticed that or not. You probably don't need reading glasses.
No, I got them on right now. I enjoyed the fact that the font was bigger than normal because, man, sometimes you pick up a book with that little ass writing and it's intimidating for me because I don't read worth of shit. And then all of a sudden, I was reading some of the reviews on Amazon and everybody gave it a 5-star review. And then there was this one guy said, oh, there's too many pictures and there's the writing too big. And I was like,
I'd like to meet that guy.
Are you kidding me? One of the things I really enjoyed about the book was the fact that you had all these pictures to document, all the people that you worked with in the business. And again, that's the wrestling part of me, enjoying seeing those pictures in the bounty hunting days. So I go back in my career, Doc, and hell, I don't hardly have any personal pictures of anything I did. I mean, it was taken by WCW or WWF or whatever. I don't own those pictures. I don't own the rights to them. So I thought it was real smart of you to document as much of your career and take as many pictures as you did. And before on a note about pictures, I got to ask you, because I own a 1995 Ford Bronco, and I know you drove a Bronco for a long time. What year was that Bronco, and how long did you have it?
I bought that in Minnesota, and when I was up there with Vern Gagne, and I kept it until, let me see, I kept that thing about 15 years. I keep stuff forever. I got 2 Dodges right now, 2,500 Dodges. One of them's got 550,000 miles on it. The other one's got 460,000 miles on it. I have 2 vans. Both of them got over 400,000 miles on them. So I don't believe in, the Dodges are 5.9 diesel, so they don't wear out. I mean, you can drive them forever. They just great car. I know you drive a Dodge Ram?
Yeah, man, I got a Ram Charger that I drove on that show, and I got a 95 Ford Bronco, and those are my babies. I will never sell those vehicles.
Oh, yeah, I know. I love them Broncos. And finally, after being in Minnesota and New York and Connecticut and all, my Broncos started getting eat out with snow, salt and stuff. And I finally sold it to a kid. He needed something to start plowing snow. He wanted to go in business for himself, so I sold it to him. And I don't know if he still got it. If he is, he probably ain't no body left on it. Been so long, snow, and that salt will eat it out,
Did you have the 302 or the 351 on that Bronco?
351. Yep. Four-wheel drive. And that thing rode great. I loved that truck. We just went down one day when I was working for Vern Gagne and bought it. And it started snowing in Minnesota. And matter of fact, the first four-wheel drive I ever had. So I pulled on the drive, and it kept snowing. I pulled out of the drive, and I pulled back in. And one morning, I got out in the Bronco, and I tried to put it in four-wheel drive, and all four wheels sitting there spinning. Because I never cleaned the drive. It was just solid ice. It was already bottomed out. I said, well, that ain't no good. But, man, that thing run good, though. I love that Bronco. That's great, that Bronco. And, a lot of the pictures, talking about pictures a while ago, when John started writing this book, I said, listen, I've got 2 18-wheel trailers out here, containers, 40 foot long, full of wrestling stuff. And he said, oh, my God. I said, well, that's the way it is, man. I sent him cases and cases and cases, boxes of stuff. He went through them, but I think he skipped a lot of them because I had thousands of pictures of people, that a lot of people done forgot about, that he didn't feel like was important because in modern day, what we're talking about, not the old day like Tex McKenzie or Bobo Brazil. These guys are not Luther Lindsay. These guys are just gone. Pork Chop Cash, Kamala. I had pictures of all these guys, but I told him, I said, well, you can't put all pictures in there because, like you said, it's going to be 1,000 pages, He said, I'll pick them out. And I already knew then that, he's going to pick them out. John's a big wrestling fan. I tried to smarten him up, and I think he's pretty well smart. I think we're going on a trip up to New Jersey. I know we're going to Fort Wayne, Indiana next month, and going to New Jersey, though, that'll be a good trip for him, in the car with me. I guess he thinks he's going to lay back and sleep all the way. But, hey, Steve, it's been great talking to you, man.
It's been great talking to you, David. I've enjoyed, like I said, I didn't get a chance to catch all this stuff because it was so regional back in. But like I said, and I've told you in our phone calls, I've watched a lot of the matches on YouTube. And, of course, Bret Hart speaks super highly of you.
Oh, yeah,
I've enjoyed talking with you on our phone calls.
I have you too, man.
The name of the book is Don't Call Me Fake. It's a real story of Dr. D. David Schultz, written by David Schultz with John Cosper. It's on Amazon at EatSleepWrestle.com.
Yes, sir. That's it.
And that's the bottom line because I said so. Pleasure, David.
A pleasure here, too, man. You take care. Talk to you later.
Don't miss the debut episode of The Producer's Guide with Todd Garner and his very first guest, Adam Sandler.
I was shooting Little Nicky, and my father came to the set. You hear about this new Krispy Kreme donut? And then I'm eating like 2 or 3 and talking to him, and he's like, how many are you going to have? I said, that's it. And he's like, you do that every day?
Download new episodes of The Producer's Guide with Todd Garner every Thursday on PodcastOne.com, the Podcast One app, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to rate and review on Apple Podcasts.
All right, everybody, give me the go home cues. Time to wrap up his podcast and ride off into the sunset. And before I do that, I want to thank Dr. D. David Schultz for joining me on the podcast today. His book, Don't Call Me Fake, The Real Story of Dr. D. David Schultz, is available at EatSleepWrestle.com and Amazon.com. I believe it's on the bestseller list. Anyway, if you get on YouTube, you type in Dr. D. David Schultz. Whether you want to watch the Stossel thing backstage or any of his wrestling matches or some of the funniest promos you'll ever see where he busts up Gene Okerlund, the best straight guy in the business, one of the great pitchmans of all time. The guy was just a bolt of lightning on a microphone. So check out some of his stuff on YouTube. I always check out some of his stuff, and it's always highly entertaining. Check out the book. I recommend it to everybody who likes a good story, and David has lived a badass life. Hey, man, I want to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. I am on social media, folks, on Instagram and Twitter at Steve Austin BSR. I will be in New Orleans, Louisiana, April 7th and April 8th at WrestleCon. Man, I always forget where the damn thing's at. I think it's at the Sheridan. Nonetheless, I'll be doing probably the only appearances I make this year, April 7th and 8th, the day before and the day of WrestleMania. I will be there live and in living color. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, and that's the bottom line. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.